Hi, I'm Jesse.
Hi, I'm Hawa.
Together we are
Bonded for life.
Today's episode is all about a new vocabulary word that Hawa and I have stumbled upon called patronymics.
Yes, patronymics, you guys. Have you heard of it? If you did, please comment down below and let us know that you've known about this word. And if you have, why didn't you share it with me? Because I honestly feel like I discovered something new.
That's right. And if you didn't know, don't pretend like you did. Just be honest.
So what does it mean?
So it stems from the root word patron, which means the paternal side, father. And patronymics means the taking on of the last name for a woman. Once you get married to a husband, you take on his last name.
Yes, and also her children, also to carry on the father's side of the name instead of the mother's side of the name. And then they pass it along to their children. That is patronymics.
That's right.
Anyway, so today we are going to talk about the tradition of patronymics. What Jesse was saying, the woman basically adopting her husband's last name as her own and discarding her maiden name.
That's right, and we want to delve into it a little bit to see if it makes any sense in today's age for women to still continue that tradition.
Right. Back then, when human rights or even women's rights actually was non-existent and woman was just a property of her father, and then she was passed on to her husband as his property.
It stems all the way back to the biblical days, the days of Abraham.
Right.
Everyone under Abraham's lineage was known as the offspring of Abraham, and also his wife Sarah.
Right.
She was not individualized.
Now, a woman, like we said, was property of her father now to her husband. In order for her to protect her children, she had to adopt the last name. In England during the 9th century, where children were not allowed to carry on their father's last name if they were born into a relationship that was out of wedlock.
Correct.
Right.
To further that, for her own rights and protection, she needed to have her husband's last name.
Right. Because she's no longer her father's property, so she needs somebody to take care of her.
That's right.
This was a tradition for a long time because women's rights was non-existent. Now in the 1800s, there's this brave woman that is known actually for changing her name from her husband's name back to her maiden name after 1 year of marriage. Her name was Lucy Stone. She was an amazing woman. She was an abolitionist, a women's rights activist. She was also one of the first, if not the first woman to graduate from college. And she felt like her identity is her identity, and she did not want her name to be lost in history. And for that, she changed it back. And for her husband to even accept her for who she is and to do that was just groundbreaking to me.
That's right. They were both forward thinkers. And you got to take your hat off to both of them because he could have been like one of those archaic men in those times and stood by her having his last name. And he was a loving husband.
What do you think about women changing their last names or not changing their last name?
If you don't change your last name, you deserve to be beat. I'm just kidding, people. No, I think that a woman should have the right to choose whether or not to have her husband's last name or to keep her maiden name. Or if she wants to hyphenate the name, she should feel free to do that as well.
I agree. I feel the same way. You know, if you want to change your last name, do you. Some people want to change their last name because their last name is ugly or they think it's ugly, you know. They want to change their last name because they don't really have a close connection with their family. You know, they want to change their last name because they want to have the same last name as their children. I don't know. I really don't know.
People change their last names for all sorts of reasons. But should you continue this tradition, because that's where it stemmed from, biblical times and present day.
Right. Because nowadays, you know, who cares if your child is a bastard or not? Do people even use that word?
I think that some biblical people use that word. But for those of us that don't, it doesn't really matter. And women have rights now, so they don't need the protection of their husband to do things and to get things done in life.
Right.
So
if you do it, you know, it's not because of property or security or
I own my woman.
or
Just
reputation,
kidding.
right? It's basically because it's tradition, but it's good to know where the tradition comes from, as a woman especially. So even if you want to change your name, do it. It's do you, whatever. But you should know why you're doing it, because as women, you are expected for some reason to feel like you have to change your last name.
That's true.
From a young age. Remember, girls, when we were like in 4th grade, we had our crush, and our crush is like sitting, 3 desks away, and we will, doodle their last names and, our first names together, or Mrs. So-and-so, because it was just kind of like...
We're conditioned.
Conditioned.
That's right.
Conditioned to just change our names, but it's our name. That's how I feel. It's my name.
And you should have the right to either change your last name, like we said before. If you want to hyphenate it, you can do that as well. Mm-hmm. But ultimately, what we want out of this conversation is for people to make an informed decision.
Right. And to know your history, to know tradition itself.
And why we're doing it today.
Right. So we're not saying don't do it or it's wrong.
What do we do in our household?
Well, you know what? To be honest, I did entertain changing my name to his name, but I had this strong feeling inside of me that I just didn't want to change it. One, because of my culture. In my culture in Chad, Africa, in my tribe, I should say, women didn't change their last names. That is just my identity. I was born with that name, and I'm going to keep that name until I die.
She feels very strongly about that.
I do.
But for those of you that still want to have both, you can hyphenate it. You're entitled to do that as well.
Right.
Just know that. If you feel so strongly about having your own identity, your own last name, then do that.
Right.
And negotiate what you need to negotiate in your own relationship. When you embark on a relationship, you should talk about how you feel about such an issue, because it can be a problem if you guys don't agree upon that. You get to that point of marriage and he assumes that you're going to take his last name. He might feel some type of way about that. And then you may feel some type of way about hanging on to your maiden name.
Yeah, but he should, if that person, that man has a really strong feeling about that, he should really question, why is it so important for me that she should change her name, change her identity to be my wife? Like, why is that so important to you? And if his answer was like, well, it's just tradition, then he should educate himself where that tradition came from. Right? Like, women fought so hard to get so many rights to be their own person and not someone's property, right?
And for me, initially, I wanted her to have my last name just so that all of us in our household would be united under the same last name. But when you really think about it, if it's coming from a negative place, it can be archaic. It's what you negotiate and what you think in your own household and what you guys feel as a united front.
Yeah, it doesn't prove how committed I am in this relationship. It doesn't prove how much I love him or lack of. It doesn't prove anything. It just shows that I'm willing to change my identity, for our marriage. Not even for our love, for just our marriage, right?
It proves that she has one foot out the door. We know that she's not going anywhere, and she knows that I'm not going anywhere. So that's where we kind of want to leave it.
Right.
It's a neutral playing field for us.
It is. And it's good to talk about stuff like that,
It is.
It's a great conversation piece because you meet a lot of people, and some people have their husband's last name, some people keep their last name, some people have hyphenated, and some people actually make up a name by combining their husband's last name and their last name and make it into one last name.
Like
for the
Smith
children.
and Brown, Smabrown.
Or Smound. But yes, have a talk. Have a talk with your future husband, your fiance, or your children, your daughter. This is great history right here about patronymics.
That's right. Don't forget to like, share, comment, subscribe, and hit that notification bell.
All right. Please let us know what you think about this. Do you agree? Do you disagree? What? Let us know. No hard feelings.
That's right.
As always, love each other, love yourselves.
respect one another.
And stay bonded.
Once again, I'm Jesse.
And I'm Hawa.
Together we are
Bonded for life.
over and out, people.